Shalom, shalom, brethren. Brother Rob coming at you down here. We made it down here to one of a few of our peaceful spots where I come sit, get a little swig of water before I trudge it on back into the house. But guys, it's funny. I done sit here and talk to a camera that wasn't rolling for about 5 minutes. And then I realized that I hadn't even pushed record, so that's your brother there. That's all right, guys. But I wanted to talk to y'all today about wineskins and the significance of wineskins in the Bible. You know, they talk about wineskins a lot, and I never really dug into it. One, because I kind of already had a foundation on the winemaking process, because, well, where I'm from, Middle Tennessee, you kind of grow up with not necessarily the knowledge of how to make moonshine, but you sure know a lot about it. It's just part of the culture. And being a curious sort like I am, and going the places that I've been, one of the things that I always did was learn how to, I could get in trouble. And so I learned how to make wine, which is really the beginning processes of making moonshine. But, you know, God takes what the devil intended for evil and turns it for good, because I came away from that with a wealth of knowledge. I started reading my Bible and I was like, what is the deal with these wineskins, old and new? But I already had kind of an idea. I kind of had it figured out, at least part of it. And you know, they talk a lot about wineskins. You can find in Joshua 9, that's a story where the Gibeonites tricked the Israelites by pretending to be from a far off land, and they showed them their old moldy bread and their old wineskins, their old cracked wineskins. And then, of course, you have New Testament, can't fit new wine into old wineskins. And so let me break a little bit of this down for you. So in the fermentation process, they make wineskins. First of all, let me say this. They make wineskins out of sheep intestines. And what happens in the fermentation process is the grape juice that has no alcohol in it yet, it goes through a process, the fermentation process. And what that does is it creates a few things. It creates gases and solids out of a liquid. And so what it's doing is, nowadays we have devices that we can see through. You know, I had old 5-gallon water jugs that I would make sometimes 20 gallons at a time. So I got very familiar with watching this stuff. So when you pour the grape juice in, when it's just juiced, it is purple. You cannot see through it at all. But as the fermentation process takes hold, the temperatures have to be just right. Conditions have to be favorable before the wine can be made. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Everything has to be right. And one of those things is you have to have room for the gases to pull off. So the gases have to go somewhere. Now, the little things that we got these days, it could just bubble right on out and go into the atmosphere. But back then they didn't have what they call bubbles. So what do? Well, you have to put the liquid in something that will expand and go back down. Kind of like whenever I very first started making wine myself, I didn't know about these little devices. So what I did was I put a balloon on top of my winemaking jug. And that balloon, it would blow up really, really big. And sometimes they would pop, but I started getting the ones that wouldn't pop, the old punch balloons. Those worked really well. But once that balloon would blow up, it would stay blowed up, and it would get just as tight as a drum, man. It would get so tight. And then when it would come back down, when the balloon would naturally allow itself to go back down, that balloon would be so stretched out of place and so disfigured. And like I said, sometimes they would pop. So what's happening there in the wineskin, it has to be able to stretch. Well, if you've got an old wineskin, there's no more elasticity to it. It won't stretch. It will pop. So that's one thing. Then also what happens is the solids start to fall to the bottom. And as the solids fall to the bottom, as the impurities fall away, as the new wine is turning, as it's turning into a product, a good product, it gets clearer and all the impurities fall away, and it goes from being a liquid that you cannot see through to being a beautiful rose color that you can perfectly see through. It's clear, and at the end of the process, it's medicinal. We know that alcohol is medicinal, has medicinal purposes. And also you have to understand that today, people like I used to be and people that make wine, they don't do it the same way as the old folks do it, as they did back then. Today we add yeast and sugar and things to make the alcohol content stronger. So back then, they would basically pull off 1 or 2% alcohol. Today we get 17 to 20 to 21%, and that's because we've manipulated it a little bit. So when they would drink this wine, it was medicinal. It helped their stomachs and things. And also a lot of areas didn't have purified water, so they had to rely on wine just to quench their thirst. And so it wasn't like they were just running around getting drunk on it. Now in Proverbs, it talks about don't drink the glittery wine or something like that, the wine that glistens. I also know what that's about, because during the very first beginnings of the fermentation process, you can actually see little sparkles all through there, and those little sparkles are grabbing on to sugars and grabbing on to carbs and grabbing onto those things that it can turn into alcohol. And there's a little glow in the light. It's like glitter. And Proverbs says not to drink that wine. Well, there's a reason. It will make you sick. The impurities haven't fallen out of it, right? The impurities haven't went away. And instead of having medicinal purposes, it'll turn you into a madman. It messes with your mind, and it also messes with your stomach. Now, what the Lord was talking about, them wineskins, he's talking about our hearts. And he was talking to the Jewish people that old or new wine can't go into old wineskins. And he was talking about the laws. And, you know, what had happened with the laws is, you know, like when Moses took a little too long on the mountain, by the time he came back down, even Aaron, the high priest of Yahweh, of Jesus, of God himself, the Most High God, even one of his priests had turned with his own hands metal into a calf, and they were worshiping that calf. Well, they knew that Aaron had just made that calf. They knew that it was made with man's hands. So it comes back to, oh, we did that. Oh, we did that. We did that. You know, we are the ones that got it. When they said that calf got us through out of Egypt and through the Red Sea, well, they seen something made with man's hands. So, you know, it was all about that. God was just really wanting a relationship, man. But at every point, they tried to circumvent or try to make their way around the rules of God. So they took God's grace, which was, okay, you guys are stumbling, you guys obviously can't keep the 10 commandments, so I'm going to give you a way to take care of this. That's why they did the scapegoat and the sacrifice. And that all goes back to the blood covenant that was made with God in the beginning. That's so deep of a subject. I could sit here and talk about this stuff forever, but we're going to get back on the wineskins. So our wineskins are our hearts. Though we may not have been Jewish, I was not Jewish. Those who are Jewish, then this part of it applies to that, the laws and things. But that wasn't That wasn't Rob's. That wasn't my old wineskin. Well, Brother Rob, what is old wineskins for just a Gentile, for somebody who was a Gentile like myself, who's someone who was a sinner and just woke up and said, oh, Lord, I need your help? Well, for me, those things were unbelief. You know, an old wineskin could have been me asking, is there really a God? And if there is, does he love me? Does he care about me? And I also had a misconception that God was out to get me. I always heard, you better not do that, God will get you. God sees you, boy. And I heard the punishing side of God a lot to try to line me up. But God is love, and he's not out to get us, you know. But those are some of the things that I hung on to, and that is an old wineskin. And in order for my heart to become new and for my mind to become renewed, I had to get rid of some of those old ways of thinking, and I had to lean not on my own understanding, and I just had to step out in faith and say, Lord, I believe you. I believe that the Bible is true, and I believe that you will show yourself to me. And as I prayed and as I got through the sanctification process, which that's a never-ending process, by the way, if you're not always looking at yourself and seeing what you can improve about yourself, then you're looking at somebody else. So we can't be doing that. We need to be taking care of our own selves. And so we need to get these new wineskins for the new wine. Why? So he can purify us, so we can go through that fermentation process, so these old ways of thinking can fall to the bottom and be poured away, be swept away, and we can be pure, and all the process can expand our wineskins, expand our way of thinking, expand, you know, and we get that new way of thinking, man. We get that renewed mind of Christ, man. And then we get that peace that surpasses all understanding. But we can't do that. We can't do that with our old ways of thinking, guys. I know I didn't cover everything that I wanted to say. My phone's running out right here, and traffic's getting a little hectic, and I'm getting a little bit too comfortable here. So we'll recap on this maybe on a time to reflect, or if y'all got anything to add to this or comments, man, y'all know, pop it in the comments. I answer every comment. I try to. Sometimes some of them slip by me, and I don't know if that's due to algorithms or what, but I try to answer every comment. And so, yeah, let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know if this helped you, and let me know if there's anything that I can improve on. You know, I might have missed something, or I might misspeak sometimes, man. And the only way iron can sharpen iron is if we have a correctable spirit. All right? And I am eager. I want your knowledge. I want to learn more and more and more about our Savior. So this is our time at our peaceful place for today. I got 1/8 of a mile to get home from here, and I'm excited. I got coffee waiting on me. Shalom, shalom, brother.